brothers and sisters. Welcome back to our study in Ruth in my whole new house, but the old same study. Now, let me ask you, do you like those courtroom dramas? You know, where there's two lawyers bashing it out, and there's a jury and a judge and everything? Because we're going to have that. I find that fascinating that in this very small book or play even that God gave us of the life of Ruth, He takes the time to give us so many variations. I mean, He gave us this family drama where people died, and then a spy movie where Ruth was sneaking up on on Boaz. There's a love story in there, and then when you get to the last act of the story, courtroom drama. Now we have to remind ourselves that last time we saw Boaz, he was going towards the city as the day began. The camera was kind of pointing towards him and then pointed back to Ruth as she went home and had an interaction with Naomi. The curtain closes, this act is finished, and now for the final act of this play. And it's back on Boaz walking towards the gate. The gate is the place where everything happened, including courtrooms. You'll see what I mean. Now, we have to remind ourselves this is all about the redemption of the nations, exemplified by Ruth herself. She is the Abraham of her time, a pagan that turns away from her idolatry to follow the Lord. She is to be redeemed, therefore. It's a wonderful reminder of what is really important in this world, as I hope to show you in this text. So, without further ado, let's start the show. Now Boaz had gone up to the gate and sat down here. Sat down there, sorry. And behold, the Redeemer, of whom Boaz had spoken, came by. So Boaz said, "Turn aside, friend, sit down here." And he turned aside and sat down. So, interesting how this verse starts and ends with that same verb action, where there's things actively and passively happening. Boaz goes up and then he sits down. He calls the guy who comes up and sits down. There's action and then there's passivity. It kind of reminds us of what happened in third act, where Ruth went down and got close to Boaz. All that action happens. And then Naomi tells her what at the end? Sit down. Wait. Let the Lord do his thing. Because Moses says, as we start this last act, God is saying the same thing. There's action, but then there's waiting upon the Lord. And he does act, right? Because it says, behold. Just God is at work. Right? Because he just happens to come by this guy. And take note how this guy is never named. There's almost an effort by the narrator to not name this guy. He is the Redeemer. Somebody Boaz had talked about. Even Boaz calls him friend, or more specifically, so-and-so. That's really the way it's kind of twisted, expressed in the Hebrew. Hey, so-and-so. Everything is put up to not name this person. I think it's purposeful as we will move forward, that it's about this guy exemplifying something worthy of being pushed aside, while you consider to Boaz, who has a heart of redemption. You'll see that as we move forward. But like I said, everything's done not to name him. Boaz calls him over, and he continues to prepare the courtroom. He now does jury selection. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, "Sit down here." So they sat down. Notice how Boaz just says and things happen. He has that kind of authority, a bit like the Lord. Remember, he is acting like the Lord, showing grace and mercy to Ruth in chapter 2 and 3. And now here he is again, simply saying, and they do. Now these 10 men are like the 12 jury members in our more modern day courtroom. Instead of having 10 as kind of a perfect number of witnesses for what's about to happen. Now Boaz will speak up. He is the lawyer in charge, and he's going to start his big argument. Listen to court. Begin. Then he said to the Redeemer, Naomi, who has come back from the country of Moab, is selling the parcel of land that belonged to her relative Elimelech. Again, how fascinating. This man is simply called the Redeemer. Elimelech is named. The guy who showed up in chapter 1 in the prelude. A man who simply dies, that's what he does, and his sons. But still he's named, not the Redeemer guy. I'm telling you, there's something about the fact this guy is to be eclipsed that's important right now. And Boaz taking center stage. He starts by explaining to him what's going on. He says that Naomi, who came back in the country of Moab, that's the same word we've been seeing all through chapter 1. This word return. Remember? Go back. Go back to your idolatry. Go back to your home. Go back to what you used to know. But instead, Ruth chooses to go to God. Go to Yahweh and his people. And there's a sense where even Naomi came back to the Lord, right? Chapter 1, she's bitter. God is against me. Chapter 2, God is amazing. I love him again. She came back to God. She's worthy of being redeemed in a sense. It's almost what Boaz is saying. Plus, she has a parcel of land to sell. More precisely, like someone was saying, it's probably more give. It's the same word that is used in the Judges to talk about how God sold Israel into the hands of their enemies, in the sense of give them over to. Because most probably when Elimelech and his family left, they needed money to go to Moab, so they sold their land. Now Naomi, as a woman, she can't buy it back, but there's a sense it's still in her family, so she needs somebody to redeem it for her. That's probably the idea. She has a parcel of land that's worth redeeming. So you have the two people here. Yeah, the two things, I should say. The soul of a woman, Naomi, repenting, and land. Two options are put before this guy. So when we take it, Boaz continues to explain. So I thought I would tell you. I will tell you of it, and say, buy. It is in the presence of those sitting here, in the presence of the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, redeem it. But if you will not, tell me, that I may know. For there is no one beside you to redeem. And I came after you. And he said, I will redeem it. This is Boaz being his lawyer. Just detailed explanation. He has to tell him all this information, right? Like he says here. I had to tell you. More precisely, I had to open your ears, like in the Psalms of God opening the ears of his servant. Or God speaking about Israel again and again. I had to open ears to hear. I'm telling you something important. Here are the details. I want to redeem, but you're before me. So if you want to do it, do it. But if not, I want to do it. You see, Boaz's desire, but not just to redeem the land, though. Redeem the people, as you will see. So he puts this choice before him, and remember, he is you. Don't miss all this redemption language, by the way. Right? Buy it, redeem it. I can redeem after you. And the guy says only I will redeem. It's more than just redemption of a land here, of a thing, of a possession. It's redemption of a soul, as we will see. Will this guy get it? Boaz is putting before him the opportunity to redeem somebody. But this guy seems perhaps that he won't get it. Now, I find it fascinating that he says it's before the elders of my people, not our people. He's speaking about another Israelite. He could have said our people, but it says my people. I think it's precise. I think it's specific to the language of trying to exclude this man to a point to even say you're not even part of Israel. Maybe I'm going too far. But I think that God is really putting all the emphasis he can on this guy, the choice he makes. It's almost as if he should exclude Israel because he doesn't get it. So he wants to redeem the land. And this can be kind of discouraging for Boaz, or even Ruth if she hears about it. Oh, I'm going to be stuck with that guy instead. But Boaz has one last ace up his sleeve, one last argument he wants to throw out. Boaz said, the day you buy the field from the hand of Naomi, you also acquire Ruth the Moabite, the widow of the dead, in order to perpetuate the name of the dead in his inheritance. Again, buy, acquire. Acquire what? Ruth, a person, not just land. Now he sells her off in the most negative sight possible, right? She's a Moabite. Even though she's doing everything she can to prove that she wants to be an Israelite, he presents her as the Moabite to kind of dissuade the guy, I believe. Boaz is putting every argument possible to dissuade the guy, especially when you realize he's actually putting two laws together. From the Mosaic Law, there was two laws here. One of redeeming land. If somebody had to sell because they were poor or they were a widow, a woman, then somebody close by, an uncle, a cousin, whatever, should redeem the land so it stays in the family. But then you have another law, and that was only among brothers, not cousins or uncles, brothers. And if it says that if somebody becomes a widow, you marry her so you could give your brother a line. The first son becomes his son, technically, of the dead guy. But that's two laws. He's mixing them together. This guy is a cousin, an uncle, he's somebody of the family, but not a brother. And yet he's saying, you should redeem her. You should marry her. Even though this guy is not the brother of Malchon and Gilead. See? It's not part of that law. But Boaz is speaking from his heart saying, I want to redeem Ruth. Way more than the land. I care more about the person than the things. Will he? Well, here's how it ends. Then the Redeemer, again, never named. I cannot redeem it for myself. At least I impair my own inheritance. Take my right of redemption yourself, for I cannot redeem. Again, all this word of redemption is more about just the land, it's the person. It says, Boaz, you go, you do it. Don't miss how it starts and ends again with the same phrase, I cannot redeem. Just like verse 1. Starts with end with going up and sitting. And here, what I could call the end of the introduction at least, it starts with and end with I can't redeem. I can't redeem, and here's why. I'll lose my own inheritance. I'll impair it. I'll destroy it. I'll ruin it. This makes me think of Jacob and Esau. Esau disdained the birthright, was willing to give it up for food because he was about here and now. He wanted stuff, just like this time. While Jacob, as sinful as he was, he wanted the inheritance. He knew it was more than just stuff. It was to be the descendant of Abraham by faith and God's chosen people. Esau was focused on here and now, Jacob on eternal life. And his Boaz, again, focused on the redemption of souls. While this no-name person that will be excluded from the people in a sense, only cared about the here and now. And this reminds me of the multiple times that Jesus reminds us it's about the kingdom of God, the new Jerusalem, eternity. Not here and now, not stuff, not food. There's something far greater. This little introduction, this courtroom setting is calling us to think about, are you an Esau or a Jacob? In the right sense of the word. Are you focused about the inheritance that is eternal or the one that's about here and now? Stuff. And maybe losing out. I don't want to help people that much, sacrifice that much, give up that much. I'll lose my money. I'll lose my time. It'll be difficult. I'll suffer. My time will be gone. But it's not about here and now though. It's about heaven, eternity, with God, His kingdom, and honoring Him. So all these sacrifices, they're nothing when you have that vision. Maybe I'm going too far. Maybe extrapolating and going way further than this introduction is all about. But I don't think so. I think Boaz, sitting in for God in a sense, in a courtroom drama, he's telling us, choose now what is more important. Redeem now what is truly important. Your soul or your stuff. Well, and now, brothers and sisters, be blessed.